What's up, friendos, and welcome into Leading Off right here on Fantasy Pros. I'm Chris Welsh. That is Joe Arrico. Happy Paul Skeens Day to you all. Yes, it is a Skeens Day. We're actually going to talk about that in a little bit. We got a potential rule change that's going to be coming forward maybe in the near future. I don't know. And what does that actually have to do maybe affecting guys like Paul Skeens? Home run calls, bets, and quite a little rookie lookie. There, we haven't had that in a little bit, but we have a whole bunch of prospect call-ups, so we'll talk about some of those guys. Leading Off is brought to you by Bet365, where you can use the promo code Leading Off, bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets when you sign up today. Go over to Bet365, do it, use promo code Leading Off, and gambling problem, call 1-800-BETS-OFF or 1-800-GAMBLER. Mr. Joe Arrico. Whoops, there's the wrong one. Had you as Bubba there. Joe, what's up, buddy?
I'm doing well, my friend. I'm doing well. I'm just taking a look at the chat here with all the Paul Skeens talking. It's the Apple TV game. Come on. Skeens and Gilbert? Like that, everybody should be watching that. That's tough to put that on Apple TV. I know last week there was Tarek Skubal and Cole Reagan's also Apple TV. Give the people what they want. Let everybody see it.
You know what? I'll tell you this. Get that boardroom off of trying to go 6 innings and force pitchers to go 6 innings and kill blackouts. And the most important thing of all, if you pay for MLB subscription to watch games, you should be able to watch every damn game on that service. No blackouts. And it doesn't matter if it's over on another streaming service. It is the biggest racket on the planet. And this is what's so crazy. We are still so focused on blackouts, which is stupid. It's idiotic. But it kind of mutes the whole issue that's going on of, oh, you can now only watch this on this streaming service. They did this with Facebook a year or two ago. You can only watch some games on Facebook, and then it's YouTube, and then it's Peacock, and then it's Apple TV. If baseball wants to take their product seriously, stop increasing the bases, stop worrying about the shift, stop worrying about how many innings a pitcher goes, and make sure every single person can watch your games, especially if they're a paying customer of hundreds of dollars for that product. Blows my mind that we are still at this. But the streaming services and everything, that money talks bigger than, what we care about. So then they have to go and sit and be like, all right, 6 innings, right? 100 pitches, maybe, it's crazy, Joe. I'm not passionate enough to be complaining about too much, but I have Apple TV, so I'm not like that complaining, but that I would have to have this special service to go see this best game of the day is asinine.
Yeah, and there's a guy in the chat here, Jake, saying he has Apple TV, but you need Apple TV Plus to watch the game. Everybody's always getting screwed. What was it?
I don't even know what that is.
I don't know what that is either. What was it? There was a playoff football game last year, I think, where you had to have a Peacock subscription for it. Was it a Chiefs game or something? It didn't affect me here in Toronto, but in the States, I think you guys all had to get a new subscription or something. It's like they make it so hard. I mean, baseball is the worst for sure in terms of like growing the game, but they make it very hard for the average fan to really even know what's going on half the time with all the rules they change. But another thing I just wanted to point out quickly, I don't know if you saw this. There was a Mike Trout video yesterday. I think it was Tops or somebody posted it. He pulled his rookie card. He was going through the box with this kid. It feels like we never get those kind of moments for a guy like Mike Trout, who should have been the guy that they've been marketing the last decade plus. And it just feels like I saw that video and I was like, that's a great video. Why have we not seen more of this kind of Mike Trout marketing content over the last decade? It just all around it goes to the overall picture of they just do a bad job of growing the game.
Yeah, 100% agree. I mean, that's it. Like they're hyper focused and leaning this all in, by the way, the MLB yesterday, or it became public. There's an article on ESPN that MLB is proposing this 6 inning rule, which it would force starting pitchers to, essentially it's to kill openers. That's the idea. It would be killing openers, put a concerted focus back on starting pitching. Let's make sure starting pitching is in the best place it possibly can be. It has some fine caveats. If you hit 100 pitches and you're not through 6, you can get out. If you give up more than 4 earned runs, you can get out. If you get hurt, you can get out. That's all fine. But to this point, like they are so in the wrong space. They're focused on all the wrong things when we still have umpires who are absolute idiots and don't know what they're doing. Some are great, by the way, great jobs. I don't want anyone to lose a job or anything, but how about man the robots? I'd rather those guys man the robots because those guys don't know what they're doing. The calls are still bad. They have not done the robot umps, and they don't want to market the game properly. And that's what they should do. Baseball is the worst at marketing their own game, and all they want to do is make it more inclusive. So it's pretty stupid, or whatever the word would be. They just put it on all those streaming services. And I don't know, we literally weren't going to talk about that, but it's like insanely dumb that it's going on. And the impetus to it is that rule change. And then it is Paul Skeens Day. Everybody's very excited. We talked about this, I think earlier in the week too. I've been tracking, because I have a Jackson Merrill bet going on, I've been tracking the rookie of the year. That rookie of the year has gone to even odds in a week span, minus 4,500 this day last week for Paul Skeens to be rookie of the year in the NL. It's moved all the way to even money with what Jackson Merrill has done. And then whatever Paul Skeens does today will kind of, be a little bit of a telling piece of, like, if he has a good game, his odds will go back up. If he has another bad game, it's going to really move, which is kind of ironic. The other thing to circle back with just real quick, maybe taking this to Paul Skeens, you were on ITL with me yesterday and we talked a little bit about this, so we'll end it after this. But I was telling you, and I wonder if you have any take on this with Paul Skeens, I just worry if they were to implement this type of rule that it could have an effect on some of these rookies, where teams would maybe be a little less likely to want to throw these rookie pitchers out there if they would be forced to either go 100 or 6 innings. I mean, look at Jared Jones earlier in the year. Didn't they pull him after 5 and 57 pitches? Like, I think this would have a negative effect on young pitching in real baseball, but obviously for fantasy if they were to implement something like that, and maybe a guy like Skeens.
I think it's really bad all the way around. And we mentioned this yesterday, and I listened to a couple podcasts. I'm a complete podcast addict, so a lot of people are talking about it. And a lot of people are saying, why not 5? Why not 5 innings? If they're going to make this kind of limit, it would line up with a win. 6 is really pushing it. And I heard some stat that it was like, I don't know, roughly 40% of starts this year wouldn't have reached that threshold. So we're asking guys to do something that they're not doing right now, which in a year where everybody's getting hurt to this degree, there are some takes that maybe it would limit injuries because guys would have to not go full max effort in an effort to last longer, because you can't go full on 100% if you're expected to throw 6+ innings. But guys are going to throw max effort. That's what pitchers do. You're not going to be able to say, all right, you're going to go 80% today. It's just not what these guys are programmed to do. I just don't see this being a positive really from any standpoint. And the rookie prospect thing, like, these guys are not getting called up and throwing 6 innings consistently. It's 3, 4, and 5. Yeah. And that's something that we're going to not really be seeing going forward. Garrett Crochet would be screwed under these new rules.
Yeah. Well, a bigger point here is like what Fenway said. There's no way the player union will agree to it. I completely agree. Yeah. If they did, it would be 5. But again, it's just more of a hyper focus on the things that are not important in baseball, when a lot of you will not be able to see Paul Skeens and Logan Gilbert pitch unless you pirate it. And that's what people are going to do. And by the way, Whips, not login sharing. They're cracking down on that stuff. I'm not giving you my login.
Into the chat for everybody.
Not going to do it. Yeah, exactly. All right, let's get into some other stuff. Speaking of pitching performances, Bryce Miller yesterday, 7 innings, struck out 9. He was a strikeout leader for the day yesterday. Also gave up only 2 hits. Wanted to point it out and get your take on him as well, because that's back-to-back 0 earned run, 6+ inning outings. And over his last 7 games, he has gone 6 innings, so he would qualify for this new rule, in 6 of 7 games. He also has given up 0 earned runs 4 times over those last 7, Joe. So thoughts on Bryce Miller, and he's been tinkering with pitches all year long. He has been an absolute stud since July.
Yeah, I think he kind of gets left behind just because of the strength of the Mariners pitching as a whole. Kirby, Gilbert, Castillo, he might be the 5th best pitcher in Seattle, and he's still an ace-level pitcher. 3.29 ERA for the season is great. A whip of 1 on the dot, nearly 18% strikeout minus walk. He's really, really good pitching in maybe the best park that he could be pitching in, considering the suppression of home runs and the way that it boosts strikeouts. I think that he's somebody that's always going to kind of just fall below the radar because of the amount of talent that there is there in Seattle. But, he's about as good as any of them this year, really.
The funny thing too is one thing I wish we could get on Savant at some point would be like in-season pitch change to be tracked here, because I'm trying to remember what it was. I think he started throwing the knuckle curve a little bit recently, and maybe the cutter, because you see like a 3% usage on the knuckle curve on the season, but I think that was more of like a new thing. And he implemented more sinker this year because he was throwing a sinker 7% of the time. It's gone to 18% of the time. And I think that has made that the split finger was the other thing. The split finger mafia, as Brian Wu told me, he's added that. The fastball to sinker to then split finger has made him just more efficient. 28.5% whiff rate on his split finger so far, but he is utilizing 7 different pitches at least 1% or more of the time, but he's added during the season. He really is sneaky and probably the least talked about of that rotation because it's Luis Castillo and Logan Gilbert and whatnot. And by the way, chat's going nuts here. They're doing my login for for Apple TV. Login the Welsh password Puppet Joe for Prez. It definitely wouldn't be Puppet Joe for Prez would not be it at all. It wouldn't have anything to do with Joe. I promise you. It'd probably be like some X-Men thing. Bryce Miller, top 30 next year.
Yeah, my brain went when you were saying that. I think 25 was where my brain initially went. We're in the same ballpark. Top 25, top 30. If he finished top 20 or even higher, I wouldn't be surprised. But he'll be drafted in like the 25 to 30 range, I think.
Yeah, something like that. Weston Wilson yesterday hit for the cycle, going 4 for 5. He had a solo homer, obviously, but the homer was in there. I think he had the double late that ended up doing that. Weston Wilson, we were talking off air before we started this up. He's kind of a trip. I believe he was one of those guys that was out here in the AFL some years back. I just don't remember. But, he's put up some big minor league seasons, but it's because he's 29. He's one of those dudes. He's a quad A player. I just hate to say it. He has been a quad A player the entire year. So far this season, though, he is up 342. I mean, it's like 40 at bats, but he's doing very well. He's hit a whole bunch of homers, and then he just hit for the cycle this year. Is there anything for you on Weston Wilson?
Maybe in a really deep league, like he went 30-30 in the minors last year in 125 games, which is pretty interesting. Good plate skills, doesn't strike out too much. He's had some pretty good walk rates. Not really this year, but throughout the minor leagues, he's been pretty good in that regard. 15-team league, no problem. No problem at all. But I don't think in shallower formats, probably not so much.
All right. Yesterday, we finally got back Justin Verlander in a rehab start, which is leading to us getting him back what looks like next week. Struck out 5, but was charged with 2 runs, 1 earned over 4 innings on Thursday. This was in that AA start, looking like he's going to get back. I think it would be lined up like Wednesday. Are you comfortable throwing Justin Verlander back out right out the chute? Because you know what? This Astros team has been red hot. Spencer Arrighetti is pitching today as we're recording this, and he has been strikeout monster. It's actually a really good matchup too to see if he's going to continue with this. Are you going to be comfortable with Verlander right when he gets back?
So I don't think we have a confirmed day necessarily, but next week it's Boston and Baltimore for the Astros. Not an easy landing spot. I think probably you do throw him out there, but I think I would be a little more cautious depending on your situation. Like if your pitching has been so good this year and you don't need to take a chance, then keep him on the bench there. If you're in a spot where you need to be catching up in terms of volume, you need wins, you need strikeouts in your roto leagues, then I would do it. But he's not somebody that I would start in all formats. I think there's still a little bit of trepidation there on my behalf with Verlander.
I think the best way to say it, it might have been you or Bubba recently, but it's like if you are really hugging some ratios and you don't want to, everybody plays it different. Like in points leagues, you're just like throwing dudes out there and you're accruing points and stuff. And in that case, I wouldn't really bother. But, if you're really hugging some of those ratios, there's some playoffs that start next week. I don't think I'd be comfortable with Verlander off that shoot. I want to see what it looks like once he gets back, though the positive would be like the Astros and, their offensive support. I think works really well for him, but those matchups are kind of tough. So I would probably be cautious. I would cautiously approach starting him to whatever your own certain scenario is. A couple offensive highlights from yesterday. Gunnar Henderson, 2 for 4 with a 2-run homer. I think that was number 31. Wilyer Abreu, 2 for 3 with a solo homer. By the way, just want to point out what an awesome rookie year he has had. He's closing in on like 20, and he's been a, offensive rookie of the year candidate this entire time. And speaking of that, Jackson Chourio homered, going 2 for 4, closing in on a 2020 season. And I just wanted to get any thoughts, as I really do think Jackson Chourio is going to line up for a 2020 season. Do you think Chourio will be a top 50 drafted player next season?
Yeah, I think he will be. I think that he probably should be. What he's done at 20 years old, he hasn't been hurting you anywhere. Like, he's been an asset in all 5 categories. He hasn't been overmatched at the plate. And honestly, like, maybe it's a little bit too late for him to come on, but we talk a lot about Jackson Merrill in this Rookie of the Year conversation. Is it crazy to think that a stupid hot September could put Chourio and make it kind of a 3-man race there? Or is it a little bit too late at this point, you think?
I think it's a little too late, but if Paul Skeens can go from minus 4,500 to essentially even money in a 1-week span, I wouldn't say it's impossible. If the Brewers catch on. I mean, the thing that both Chourio and Merrill have going for them is they're playing every single day. Their teams are in contention, where that's not the case really for Paul Skeens, and that team could shut him down at any point. And I think that's, that kind of makes it a big question. So I would say it could happen. I think Merrill is the guy, though, and his consistency in the year, his defensive prowess, I think that's what holds him up. But, anything could happen. I would love both. I have bets on both of them, so they would definitely cash out. Top 40 next year. I'm playing a little chicken with you. Can we get Chourio at top 40?
So that puts him in the 3rd round of a 15-teamer. Yeah, I think it's going to happen. I think it will happen.
I think that's the range. I think that's the range he's going to go next year.
I got one for you real quick. Chourio or James Wood next year?
Oh, I would go Chourio. Yeah. I do think James Wood, with all the adjustments into a new year, could be louder. But I think I'll go with Chourio, because I think he's the type of guy that might steal more bases. You might get even more bases in there. So I'll go with Chourio. Did you go Chourio too?
I think I would. I think they're going to be right around each other in ADP. I think Wood's probably going to get into that 3rd round. I mean, Ellie was into the 2nd round. Abrams was 3rd, 4th round. I think Wood's going to be right in that same territory. Yeah,
Lee said Wood over Chourio. See, that's the problem. It's like James Wood could rattle off 35 homers next year and keep stealing. Russo, JJ said Wood will do. Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree that James Wood won't develop next year. It's just, what we're seeing with Chourio, like really low strikeout rates and stuff like that. He's going to hit higher in the lineup. I don't know. It's kind of tough. Speaking of, we're talking rookies, big rookie lookie here. The Detroit Tigers are calling up 2 prospects today. They're calling up Jace Young, and they're calling up Trey Sweeney. Trey Sweeney, who they got in the Jack Flaherty trade. Trey Sweeney has just been traded all around, from the Yankees to the Dodgers, now to the Tigers. He's going to be called up. And Jace Young, who I've seen both of these guys. Saw Jace Young a ton because he was in the Arizona Fall League this past year. Young, 14 homers in around 400 plate appearances in AAA this year. Trey Sweeney, around a 270 average, 15 homers, actually stolen quite a bit more. He's a bigger guy, Trey Sweeney is, than Jace Young. If people are wondering as far as like, my interest in either one of these guys, it's little to none. Jace Young is interesting. He's not like his brother, though. Josh Young at the lower levels in college was like a really high batting average guy who developed into power, and he's been making that change his entire minor league career. Jace is a guy that's never really ran really high batting averages. He's got kind of like a front wrist thing where his wrist, like guys, I'm doing this visually, so like podcast people can't hear, but like, a guy will have his like hands up to his head, and maybe it's like tilted toward their face or up. Jace Young has it tilted outward, almost in like a Craig Counsell-ish type of way. And I only say that to say, like, it's always been this like approach that I don't know. I don't really love. I've never really loved his approach. I think it will lead to better contact. I don't think it'll ever lead to elite power. So I think he's a middling guy. Trey Sweeney stealing some bases. I think both of these guys are just average. They're just not guys I would be going to the wire to try to pick up right now in any fantasy leagues, especially for the fantasy playoffs coming up. Another one is the Astros are bringing up Shea Whitcomb, who that's another like super interesting guy, a little bit older, 25 years old, but he's put up monster stats in the minor leagues. 25 homers, 26 stolen bases in over 100 games. I'd actually be a tiny bit more interested in him. I just don't know if Whitcomb will play enough. The Astros have screwed with us enough. I don't know if he will play enough where if they're bringing up, by the way, they're bringing up Jace Young and Trey Sweeney with the Tigers, where they're not bringing up backup Torkelson, who's been going. So like they're showing you who they are the rest of the season. I think those guys have a better chance of playing more. Whitcomb, I'm a little bit more excited from the fantasy standpoint, but I don't really think any of them are real viable options. Is there any interest for you in deeper leagues in any of these three guys?
Whitcomb with the lineup context, considering the power speed he could bring to the table. If he starts playing regularly, then I could have some interest, but this time of season, especially for shallow league players, if you're in a 10 or a 12 team league, you can't really take these chances. You need all hands on deck. You can't be thinking, well, maybe he'll pan out. Like you need those guys that are pretty sure things, and nobody here is a sure thing, unfortunately. Not right now.
Yeah, and I'm not saying like anyone was doing this particular thing, but you know, like we did this yesterday in ITL, but like Jake McCarthy he's obviously been insane. Under 50% ownership, or right around 50%. And that was like 39% ownership between Yahoo and ESPN. As fun as like Junior Caminero is right now, like you would be better set at this stage, probably going with a Jake McCarthy. So it's like the only weight you're really holding to some of these prospects are the top end guys. And guess what? Kobe Mayo was just optioned to the minors. He was like 0 for 15 with 10 strikeouts or just some nonsense. It was like a 50% strikeout rate. It was awful. Hit 0.56. Atrocious. It was as bad as Jackson Holiday's debut. Should we be done with him in Dynasty? Absolutely not. This is a great time to buy Kobe Mayo, and I would go buy Kobe Mayo in Dynasty. But he's a nothing burger for the rest of your season if you're vying in a redraft. Caminero, someone asked earlier, hey, what do you think about that start? Listen, like I think he hits the ball really hard, but I think I said it the day he was called up. I think he's probably going to struggle a bit. I think there's going to be some strikeout problems. I think there's probably going to be a little bit of contact. He's going to have a massive, awesome outing where he hits 115 and it's a homer and everyone's like, we're back. And it's like, probably not. It's going to be inconsistent. So I would have a quick trigger finger with all rookies in redraft right now. But in Dynasty, the top name players I would take advantage of. I would take advantage of anyone that gets kind of shaded on Caminero or shaded on Mayo. So that's my take on that. Also want to add real quick, as a fix, found out that the thing I talked about the other day that everyone's brain blew up was incorrect. When I was saying that, oh, hey, cool, the Rays brought him up. This didn't make sense. Oh, wait a minute. September doesn't count towards their days played. Found out that was true, by the way, but that was changed with the new CBA agreement. So September does count for service time as of the last year and a half or 2 years. So I was correct that was the old take in September. That's gone now. So the Rays literally brought up Caminero to lose his eligibility if they keep him on the roster the whole time. So if he really struggles, they could boot him back down so they don't lose it, but I don't really think they know what they're doing. And that's all a big story of like trusting some of these teams with their prospects. The Rays are proving us a little bit wrong right now that they're going to use these guys in the right way. So that was a lot of me talking. That was a lot of prospect stuff and essentially saying, I don't really want any of them, but Shea Whitcomb is the most interesting. If you are in a dynasty with open world stuff, if Shea Whitcomb was out there, I would pick him up. I don't care that he's a little bit older, but he has been rocking. And then the last one, it's not really a prospect, but Edward Julien, recalled by the Twins, Joe. He's back. Byron Buxton going on the IL. Do you want Edward Julien?
Man, I'll never really quit Edward Julien. I don't know if it's a Canadian thing or what it is, but I think there is a great fantasy player somewhere inside of him. I just don't think he's ready at this point. He's still 30+%, like 35% strikeout rate guy. But if he ever gets that down, like he gets on base a hell of a lot, he hits home runs, he steals bases, good lineup. He could be a great play like next year after, but he's still got a lot of ways to go until I'm that interested in him.
I am not interested in him this year. Again, we are a month out to the end of the season. I'm not looking for lottery tickets right now. Unless you're looking for lottery tickets in like keeper-ish formats. Edward Julien got released. totally would pick him up for next year. I've said I think he has an incredible eye, but he is the most annoying player to me in baseball because he is the most passive person, bat on his shoulder until 2 strikes happen, and then all of a sudden he's the most aggressive player you've ever seen on the planet. 2 strikes, boom, he's swinging at everything. He's got to fix that. Be aggressive in early counts. Use that batter's eye. So I think he's just the most frustrating player in baseball. I can't get over it. 3 up and 3 down. Mark Vientos, 2 for 5, 2 homers, 3 RBI yesterday. Those 2 homers. A lot of Mark Vientos chat in here earlier. He is, low key, top. What are you going to call it? Like top 12? Is he a starting third baseman next year in fantasy?
I think so, yeah. The power is crazy. 16% barrel rate, 45 on the hard hit. He's hitting for average. The lineup, I guess Pete Alonso and what happens with him might impact things a little bit. If he leaves, that might signal some pretty dark days in New York, and maybe that lineup won't be so great outside of him and Lindor. If Alonso comes back, maybe they will, keep adding pieces, and that would help the supporting cast. But I think the actual skills of Vientos are incredible. Like, he's a 30 home run guy going forward who could hit you, 260, 270. I think he's fantastic. I think he probably will be a top 10 third baseman next year.
If Alonso goes, it might be better. He probably takes over at first base, unless they go and prioritize that and some other free agent sign like a Reese Hoskins or something. But 275, 19 homers. He's putting up a pretty impressive season. Only scored 38 runs, though, on the year. But, if he is put more in a prominent piece of the lineup, he'll be good for next year and a great piece to battle with the rest of this season. Also on the 3 up, Keibert Ruiz, 2 for 4. He had a 2-homer game. And Logan Webb, 7 2/3, 7 strikeouts, 0 earned runs. Quietly does his job. On the down, Mitchell Parker got blasted. 3 innings. 10 hits, 9 earned runs yesterday in the worst outing of any starting pitcher. Jose Quintana, 4 innings. He walked 4, giving up 4 earned runs and gave up 7 hits. And Mitch Spence, 2 2/3, 5 earned runs with 3 walks. No, thank you, sir. On the injury front, Tristan Casas is going to be activated here on Friday, barring what has been said as like something unforeseen. He would be set out to get back into the game today, which is amazing for one of my fantasy teams. I have this one team. It's this big dynasty. It's a 3-sport league. I've mentioned this before, where you can like intertrade baseball for football pieces. And my baseball is just teetered between. I'm killed with injuries this year, but I traded for Casas, and I'm a borderline playoff team right now, and I get to put Casas back in there, which I'm very excited about. You think Casas is going to just step right back into where he left off, or are you expecting growing pains? At the end of the day, if you have Casas, you're going to activate him and put him in the lineup, and that's the most applicable thing. But is there any like extreme positive or extreme pessimism to Casas?
Well, Boston's lineup has been a lot better than I thought, and I would assume Casas comes back as an everyday player, batting somewhere between 3rd and 5th, I would imagine. So that is definitely big. In terms of what I would expect this season, it is probably just a chance for him to kind of get his sea legs back and be ready to go in 2025. I think he'll be very good and startable player, but I think it'll probably take a little bit of time to get back into the swing of things after all the time that he's missed. And there's not a hell of a lot of time to get back into the swing of things. So I think 2025 is where I'm really looking for him. And you'll probably get a bit of a discounted price as well in a lot of cases, because you didn't see a lot of him this year, and that's generally the way it works. So I like him a lot for next year. For this year, obviously you start him, but keeping the expectations in check a little bit.
I'm excited to get him back out there. And you know what? Josh Bell would have been just a great bridge to all of this. Hopefully you guys picked him up. I actually was able to pick up Josh Bell in a couple spots, and him in that Diamondbacks lineup right now would be a great bridge until Casas gets himself going. We did get official word, by the way. Christian Yelich is done for the year. This had been speculated on. I think he was saying he wanted to kind of like see how he could go through a rehab process sometimes of these injuries. Well, he is undergoing season-ending back surgery today. So no Christian Yelich for the rest of the year. We'll have to wait till next year. So that's a big bummer. There's a couple of those guys. Christian Yelich is one of those players, I think, that have been sitting on rosters where people are like, I don't know what to do. Someone said it earlier. Kyle Tucker, another one of those where, his injury has been so unknown. You hate to be the person that would go and cut Kyle Tucker and then he comes back.
Yeah.
But I don't know what we're waiting for with Kyle Tucker. There's no real positive updates. There's nothing that seems imminent. Obviously, the Astros would need him. I just don't know if they're going to be hard pressed to want to push him before the playoffs. So, if you got him on the IL, I guess that's all that matters. But I'm not hopeful that Tucker returns this season.
At this point, I'm not holding out hope. I'm not dropping him, to your point. Like, if I drop Tucker and he comes back and wins somebody else a championship, I'm going to really hate myself at this point after holding him for 4 months. But it's very strange. Like, this was initially he fouled a ball off his shin or something like that. It was a shin contusion. It was like a bruise. And that's been like 4 months. There must have been a fracture or something that we just never heard about. It's got to be it, right?
I think it's something they're not telling. It'll be one of those in the offseason where they're like, oh, by the way, his leg fell off and we had to reattach it. And we're like, what? Why didn't you tell us? Like, it'll be something more dramatic. Fenway had a good question real quick before we get into some bets. Who gets drafted first next year? Trout or Yelich?
Yelich, easily, I think.
Easy?
Yeah. If he's healthy coming into the season, at least he's been putting up stats the last couple of years. Trout, I was actually talking with Justin Mason about Trout yesterday, and we were both kind of like, if Trout's in the 100 to 150 range, maybe we take the chance on him. But I think Yelich is still a top 100 player. He was like this year, top 70, top 80. He was really good when he was out there. I think Yelich goes ahead pretty easily. You disagree?
It's not that I disagree. I don't know if I wouldn't say anything is definitive with those two. I mean, it's funny. It's like the highlight of the last 5 months of Mike Trout is that Topps video you're talking about where he pulls his own rookie card. And it's like, all right, let's pull some games played. But I don't know. I guess I haven't really thought about it. The only problem is like, I think Yelich has some chronic injury issues that Yeah, I think I think this is actually where I was just about to say, like, I'm not sure either one is top 100 at this point. Like, it's fun. And maybe at the end of the day, it'll be one of those situations where it's like, the value's just too good and you want to do it in the 90s or something like that. But I don't know, man. I don't think Yelich is that much more, that much healthier than Trout. It's just he was still stealing bases. So that's a good offseason question.
He has been healthier, though, the last couple of years. I think I'm not looking at the games played, but like over the last 3 seasons, I'd be shocked if Yelich doesn't lap Trout in games played. Like, Yelich had that injury-prone label that he kind of shook off. I wonder if it's going to come back to him now. But if they're both healthy coming into the season, like, Yelich hit 315 this year, 10 homers, 21 steals, and 270 at bats. Like, that's pretty big time, and it's a good.
What if they're tied to each other? I think they may be tied to each other. That might be guys where it's like, oh, Yelich went, I'm gonna now go get Trout. Like, they're probably together. Like Barry's asking this: Jackson Merrill by 5 rounds over Mike Trout. This is a question. But see, this is kind of my point in the chat. I've seen a couple takes on Mike Trout already that proves like you go into next year, you get into that 4th or 5th round, people are gonna start getting squirrely. They're gonna see that name of Mike Trout and they're gonna get squirrely. We will do our best job to probably walk you off of that. But yeah, that ain't even close. It is Jackson Merrill by a country mile, as they say, which I don't know what the difference between a country mile and a normal mile is, except maybe dirt roads. Maybe it's bumpier. And that I would still go with Jackson Merrill. That's my assumption. Friends, it is time that we get in to our best bets
of the day.
Oh, you almost forgot there. That is right. It is our Friday best bets, not Joey P, but you do get to see his face. See, at least we bring you back Joe's face every single show that we do. It is best bets with Welsh and Joe Arico. Joe, you and Bubba have been very hot on here. Some fresh eyes on it. We had somebody the other day that was when Bubba was here was like, not that they were against Bubba, but they were saying like, let's get Joe's bets added to all of this. You are going to heavy props. You and Bubba have been very, very player prop centric. So what are you doing today for your best bets of the day?
Yeah, we went 3 for 3 on Monday. Big day. We hit that crazy under game total for the Snell Sale Master Class. That was great. So let's get right back to it with Paul Skeens. Paul Skeens, and we already established that most of us aren't going to be able to see this game, but he's facing the Mariners. Paul Skeens against Seattle, that could be 20 strikeouts. That could be a Kerry Wood type of game the way this year has gone. Obviously, I'm exaggerating a little bit. But you're getting Paul Skeens. It's at 8.5 the line, which is, granted, it's fairly high, but he's pretty consistently hitting this against very good teams that don't strike out as much. He had 8 against the Dodgers last time. Obviously, we've seen 8, 11, 9, 8, 11. So you're getting plus money at 8.5 against the Seattle team that strikes out at a historic pace this season. I'm pretty happily putting my money on that one. And then we talked about this guy actually yesterday, Welsh, and that's Ryan Nelson. Taking the over 5.5 strikeouts on him against Tampa Bay. There was some talk about maybe he'd go to the pen, but it looks like he is starting today from what I'm seeing. And his strikeout output has been excellent as of late. You might be surprised. 9, 7, and 9 over his last 3 games. There was a 2 strikeout game mixed in there against Kansas City, but the previous one was also 9. He's been racking up the strikeouts. He gets a Tampa team that actually strikes out a decent bit. One of the bottom 10 strikeout teams in baseball, over 24%. And you're getting it at plus money, over 5.5 strikeouts. So really liking Ryan Nelson there as well. And then I will go back to the Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Well, he has been unbelievable, like truly unbelievable, better than he was in 2021 from some respects. And we're getting Kyle Hendricks. And Kyle Hendricks is literally like a batting practice tosser. They should get him in the home run derby next year. The guy is totally cooked. So over 2.5 hits, runs, and RBIs. This one is not quite as juicy, minus 115, but I think all 3 of these are really, really attainable today. And of course, over on Bet365, because I am a company man. So go check out Bet365.
Company man, you got the old school hat too. We got to get you the new updated one. I have that same old school hat. I got the BP hat.
I like it. It's comfy. It's a nice hat.
Yeah, it's good. We're rocking the company today. We have a store, by the way, if you guys want to go check it out. My goal, by the way, for next season is to fill that store before we start up the season with some more leading off centric things, like maybe a Puppet Joe shirt we'll try to get together, maybe the Joe and Welsh wrestlers. I'm gonna try to get some of that stuff. If you guys are down, just tell me that you guys are gonna rock with it. By the way, what a dumb, stupid moron I am. Speaking of the Mariners, thinking about that, they let Jordan Montgomery. Wasn't that the Mariner? Oh, no, it was the Rockies, but I'm still a stupid idiot, I guess, is the big key. But Jordan Montgomery, I have the Jordan Montgomery 8 strikeouts against the Rockies. That's what it was the other day. And it's like those high strikeout teams, just getting too cute against them doesn't work. Like Montgomery, he was averaging like 1 strikeout per inning, just nonsense. He barely ever strikes out over 4, strikes out 8 against them. The same thing kind of applies for the Mariners as well. Like these are just high swing and miss teams. That's why you can kind of bet them. I'm a little like dicey about taking high strikeout totals on Skeens right now, especially that number. That would be like a pretty big avoid for me, but I'm down with it. I do love the Ryan Nelson one. That was my bet last week, was the plus strikeouts, and he had 9. I think this is a good bet, and I got a little bit of a tag with him. So my bets, I'm going to go with the same kind of logic of what you're talking about with Ryan Nelson, and I'm going to just take the Diamondbacks money line today. You can get it at minus 112. It's a decent pitching matchup. Diamondbacks have been absolutely on fire. There's definitely a falling knife to them. Like, when is that not going to happen? Not really sure it's today. I like what Nelson is set up for, and I like the Diamondbacks in general. So minus 112 on the money line. I'm also going to take a Yankees run line today. Garrett Cole is on the bump against the Detroit Tigers. And I actually really wanted to take the Garrett Cole strikeouts. It's plus 6.5, but it's like minus 165. And why do I like that? There's a bunch of rookies, throwing a bunch of rookies out there. But what I do like for that is a nothing burger pitcher with a bunch of rookies out there for the Yankees to, both on the pitching side and on the hitting side, take this game. So I'm taking the run line at minus 1.5. That's right around 115. And then you guys know, if you've watched the shows throughout the season, I'll do this sometimes. I'm doing my drop down K parlay. And what that means is I'm taking the number right under their actual over under, and I'm parlaying it together. So Garrett Cole, 6.5. I'm taking 6. Ryan Nelson, 5.5. I'm taking 5, and I'm pairing those two together, and I'm getting plus 112. So Garrett Cole plus 6 strikeouts and Ryan Nelson plus 5. That gets me plus money. Those are my best bets of the day, and Joe Rico's best bets of the day. Brought to you. I'm trying to get the board up here. There it is. Hey, look at that. Bet365 bets of the day with Joe Rico and the Welsh. Joe, what do you got for your home run call today? I think you've done decent at this. The other day, Joe's texted me, man, we're really rocking. I was 3-0 on bets. You hit your homer while I was a big old fat donut on the betting side. So now you can have the home run. I'll take the 3-0 betting day, Joe. So who's your home run call?
We're a team here, Welshie.
When
one of us succeeds, we both succeed. One of us fails, we both fail. But I think it was a good day the other day. When we hit 3 bets and get a home run combined, I think we're doing okay.
It was solid.
So I think somebody pointed out, I believe it was Lee in the chat earlier today. Are we just all taking Patrick Corbin, everybody against Patrick Corbin? Indeed, we are. Nick Castellanos is who I'm going for. So make sure everybody's safe at home today. But I am taking a Nick Castellanos home run call against Patrick Corbin. That one should be pretty easy money for any member of the Phillies today. Corbin, like I mentioned with Kyle Hendricks earlier, these guys should start a batting practice clinic together because I don't know what they're still doing. I mean, Corbin's collecting those, $30 million checks, but he has no real reason to leave. But Kyle Hendricks, go sit on the patio. It's time to call it a career.
Patrick Corbin's living the best life.
Oh, yeah.
All the money in the world, just throwing meatballs out every single day, not putting a strain on his arm. I mean, just look at MLB. I go 4 innings. He's living a great life. I wish.
Can you imagine like a Patrick Corbin, Anthony Rendon, Chris Bryant podcast where they just sit around and talk about never playing all the money.
Every other podcast doesn't air because it didn't record correctly, and 100%. I feel bad. I love Chris Bryant. I don't like.
I shouldn't even put Bryant in with those guys. I shouldn't. That's not right of me. But
no, Anthony Rendon wouldn't show up. He wouldn't be there. He'd phone it in. 5-minute interview. I'm going to go with Aaron Judge. I'm going to be cheap and I'm going to be lame, and I'm going to go with Aaron Judge because I want it through the weekend. And I've also got a brand new board for you. And would you look at this nonsense?
Oh my
Joey P. How rude is this too? Ethan, our art guy, just to spite Wonky, and I know it's a numerical thing. Or a letter thing, but he put Joey over Wonky Penguin, and Wonky Penguin has been there all year long. Wonky should get it, but it was to the letters here. But they've both got 36. They are 12th and 13th on the board. Your leader is B Trout at 43, back in it with South African G at 43, Elskill at 42, Larry and Silent Dragon at 40. We have 5 people in the 40 range. We are going to get over 50. This might be the biggest home run season ever. 33 is what needs to get on the board. I believe I am at 30, so I am still not there. How stupid is that, and how lame is that? But hopefully Aaron Judge will get me on the board a little bit. Would have been fun if I picked a different name, but I'm not going to because I need to get on that stupid board. Friends, that is it. I do want to remind you guys, if you want a little bit more on the Fantasy Pros action, I know this is the baseball front. We got Fantasy Fest coming up on Monday. It's a 5-hour long live stream that we're doing on the youtube.com/fantasypros. Joe Pisapia will be there. I will be there. And there's even some baseball people that also do football. Scott Pianowski, who was with us last year. I'm going to be doing a show with him 5 hours straight. If you guys want to come and check that out, we'd love to have you. Also, Joe, myself, and Bogman, our new show, Out of Bounds, we're going to be doing on Tuesday on the Discord. And you guys can be a part of the Discord if you're not already. FantasyPros.com/chat. Just show you right here. Like, oh, there's Yelich. Actually, let's pick a better one who's not hurt. They're all kind of hurt right here. But FantasyPros.com/chat. You can get in and check out that show and tons more. You can come have fun with us. Make sure you do so. Otherwise, we will be back Monday, Wednesday, Friday next week. We got Casey Bubba here on Monday. Joe will be back on Wednesday. Find him on Twitter at JoeRico99. You can find me at IsItTheWelsh. Good luck this weekend, especially if you got playoffs next week. We'll be here to help you out. Until next time, friends, we'll talk to you right here on Fantasy Pros Leading Off. Peace.